Voz de la guitarra mía, a despertar la mañana, quiere cantar su alegría a mi tierra mexicana. What do you think, no, Paul?
Oh man, that was good, bro.
Thanks, man.
You
Thanks.
took me back to the fight on that one, man.
Dude, that was a dope ass intro.
I know the whole thing, bro. I was, to be honest, I'm just sitting there thinking, how come Oscar didn't do that for Canelo? And I bet you Oscar was thinking the same exact thing. Like, damn, I let Eddie Hearn upstage me like that, But Eddie Hearn's pretty slick. Got to keep an eye out on that guy.
Oh, definitely. And I was thinking that same thing. I always thought that, they were just kind of taking Canelo for granted as far as not properly promoting him. But now all of a sudden, my understanding is that Eddie Hearn's the one who did set that up. And he was even saying like, oh, that was a great intro for me. And it's shit. Eddie Hearn did a better intro for Canelo than he did Callum Smith. Callum Smith was very just kind of bland, and fucking all the stops were put out for Canelo, dude. I mean, it's awesome, man. It's probably one of the best intros I've seen,
Totally. I mean, that's what I mean. I got to repeat it again. I can't believe it took this long to give the man the attention he so much has deserved. When you got other fighters getting hyped so much for not doing anything at all, it's really weird how barely now they just said, hey, let's pull out all the bells and whistles for Canelo,
Oh yeah. So shout out to HCP, D-Style, G-Funky when he comes back, man. We are part of the Canelo Cartel, although we might be retiring that here shortly. I got to say, when we started out, it was kind of a running joke. And then it kind of turned into a thing where we thought, well, hey, let's spread the news that there's nothing wrong with being a Canelo fan. I got to say, dude, that tide is turning a lot. So now we're just going to be regular people doing our thing very shortly here. It's been a good run, man. Canelo is dominating, and everybody's openly having the conversation whether Canelo is the greatest fighter of his generation. And he's got so many medals. Like, I don't have all the time to sit here and be like, former two-time lightweight, former two-time middleweight. I just can't get into that because there's all kinds of things you could list. So he's actively doing a really good job. The accolades, the resume, the skill itself in the ring, excellent stuff. And everybody's either getting on board. And I even think that some people have to give him his credit to remain objective and so they can keep their credibility. What do you think about that?
No, totally. You got certain channels that I always knew were, it's obvious. They always started every sentence with, well, I don't really like Canelo, but this and that. And, you hear the disclaimer right away. But not only that, you got certain channels that actively had said some really
No, Paul, you there, homie? You might be breaking up just a little bit. You were talking about channels. Well, that's all right. I guess No Paul's back on that Taco Bell Wi-Fi. You know how it goes with No Paul. If anybody's been around on D-Style's channel and seen him on Uncensored, you know what goes on, bro. But I'll tell you this. He's absolutely right. We've seen people who act like the fact that they're giving Canelo some credit means a whole lot more. And to me, I think it's kind of funny, a person who has liked Canelo ahead of time gets criticized for a lot of things. We've been called fanboys, and nobody really calls us fanboys directly, or Canelo fans fanboys directly. But when somebody comes on, they're always talking about like, hey, well, I'm not a fanboy. These people over here, those guys are fanboys. I'm the guy who's calling it like it is. And so that's something that I've realized over time. Like, to me, when I sit there and I look at what's going on, like, I just have to realize that, it really doesn't matter. Like, I go on about my day. These things on YouTube here, it ultimately doesn't matter. Nothing ever gets solved here. I could sit here and make the greatest points. It's not that anybody's listening either, but say I was making these amazing, tremendous points, it wouldn't end the conversation. This continues on and on in YouTube. Conversely, I could just go on about my day and enjoy being a boxing fan, and nobody gives me a hard time. But we all choose to get up on YouTube, and we only give YouTube the time that we allow. So when we go in and hear people tell us like why they're right, that's our choice. But you just got to remember that you can always get out of YouTube and just enjoy your daily life and be the fan that you want to be. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. So that's why I'm here to just talk about things and kind of stream a little bit. It looks like Nopal got knocked off a little bit. So I'm going to start talking about some of these things that are on my mind. One of the things that I wanted to discuss was Canelo in 2021. But before that, I'll talk a little bit about that fight, man. That fight was awesome to watch. I love showcase fights. And I did consider it a showcase fight, even though it was a championship match. It was an excellent fight, and Canelo displayed all of his skills. I mean, if you like offense, you like defense, you like power punching, you like effective aggression, and you like heart, Canelo had it all, man. It was just an amazing thing to see, dude, honestly. Oh, looks like Nopal is back. Put him back in here. Nopal.
What's up, Carnal? I don't know at what point I got dropped off from what I was saying.
You were just kind of saying that, like, you notice that, you see these other channels. You were starting to reference what you see with other channels.
Oh, okay, yeah. You see the blatant bias that they show for certain fighters, and they give other less tier fighters nothing but they give them nothing but credit for what they do. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. And so, we see the biases all the time. And that's why I was telling the people here just a little while ago, like, it ultimately doesn't matter what other people think. Like, you just got to enjoy liking boxing the way you like boxing. Like, one of the things that I've really noticed too, actually, I guess we could get into that in just a little bit. Let me hear a little bit about what you have to say about the fight itself, and then we'll get right into that. Like, what did you think about the fight? No problem.
Oh, okay. It's not good. Okay. Yeah, they cut off again. I'm gonna do it right here. Change spots, brother.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's totally true, and I agree with you on that, Chicano.
Excellent, man. And what'd you think about the fight itself, man? Tell me what you saw. Was he better than you thought? Where's he at in his career? Like, what do you think, man? Tell me about what you were thinking when you saw the fight.
Well, at first, when I did my prediction, I was a little worried about this fight, because I was worried that Caleb was going to try to make it a stinker, and try to grab Canelo as he came in and pull sort of like a Klitschko. And I know I spoke to a couple other friends, and they were worried about the same thing. They were like, a guy as tall as Caleb could really make this a stinker. So I got to give Caleb nothing but credit, man. He showed the heart of a warrior. Wasn't able to, do much because Canelo was hitting him from firepower from all over the place. The thing that stood out the most to me was that beautiful jab, man. That, we know he hasn't really showed that too much, that jab.
Oh, yeah.
In this fight, he was able to bring it out, and he was knocking that head back. So, and like I've said before, I mean, the display of reading the distance really good started showing. I mean, that Canelo started showing that from the Jacobs fight, how good he read the distance. And that's a little trick. This guy, he's just, every time he fights somebody that does something a little better than him, he actually moves on to using them same tricks that these fighters have used with him, And, that's something that he gets from every fight. He's learning something different. There's fights where he doesn't really learn too much, but still the experience itself, like fighting Rocky Fielding, that he needed that confidence that to know that he can go in with a bigger man and straight up beat the hell out of him.
Right.
So a lot of people say that's a throwaway fight, the Rocky Fielding, but no, we also got to remember that he squeezed that in on the same year that he usually only fights twice a year. So he squeezed that fight in that belt in 1 or 2 months notice, and took care of that fight and won that belt, which was a lower tier belt, but nevertheless it was an official belt, and that was not a throwaway fight. So that was my opinion on that, Chicano.
Yeah, man, I agree, dude. He controlled the distance exceptionally, and I gotta say, dude, a lot of people have been using some awesome adjectives to describe Canelo's skill level, man. He's an excellent boxer. One of the things that I thought was amazing, just like you said, man, the jab was amazing. I also thought that his steady pace was going on. Like, on a couple of streams, I've said that some people criticize Canelo for not being able to cut off the ring, or that's the thing that they really want to see Canelo do better. And I said that like that's this idea of Canelo chasing somebody around the ring, like he did with Laura, isn't going to happen anymore. Like, you even saw that in the Miguel Cotto fight. Like, he's done trying to like cut off the ring and just run after somebody. He's going to take his time and stalk towards you methodically. And then if there are any exchanges, his offense and his defense is so good that he's going to win those exchanges, and he's going to continue to apply this pressure. But he's a clean fighter, man. Like, one of the things I really liked about that fight is the ref was hardly involved at all. And as soon as the bell would ring, bing, Canelo would stop stalking and go back to his corner. He's a total professional. And so he was just beating this guy's ass from pillar to post, disabled the guy's arm, busted up his nose. I mean, the guy looked beat up, man. Like, and you could even see in the 12th round, Canelo was kind of carrying him a little bit. He was still fresh. I mean, this was totally just a one-sided beatdown. I thought the fight was already over for sure by like the third round, maybe even slightly earlier. The real estate that Canelo was taking up was evident. And like you said, man, the way he slips and slides, like, man, he's just getting better. But, this is an evolving Canelo Alvarez. Like, I've seen him improve more and more over time. And like you said, like, he's got a lot of tools in the tool belt that I'm not even sure he had to fully utilize in this fight. Like D-Style said, and I agree, like, I do think that Canelo has another gear that he simply didn't have to use. He's kind of a compassionate guy. I was at the Kovalev fight myself, and, everybody likes to talk about that fight, like, Kovalev was landing shots at will and blah, 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 and Kovalev was winning. Well, one, I think that you need to go back and actually look at that fight. I think Canelo was in control of that fight. I think that he set up that punch, and I think he knocked him out. But when I was in the crowd, and you see this a little bit in the telecast, like, Canelo knocked him out, and the first thing he did was try to quiet the crowd. There wasn't like this feeling of like, oh my God, miracle, come from behind win. It was like, hey, everybody chill out. You know what I mean? Like, this is serious business. Like, he's a guy, I think, kind of has compassion, and that you could see how relaxed he is in general when he's in the ring. Like, to him, it's very clinical. Even before the fight with Callum Smith, you saw how relaxed he was. Even when he's stalking, like, Canelo has a good way of applying effective aggression towards somebody and utilizing that time while he's methodically walking towards you to rest, to just have a really nice steady pace, but has such good reflexes to where, he knows exactly when you might try to counter, when you're trying to set up a shot. I was just very impressed overall. So do you have anything else you want to add to Paul?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what you're saying about him being very relaxed is like, that's totally true. I mean, you can see how he's fighting there. He was totally relaxed with the Kovalev fight. He wasn't using any more energy than he needed to. And then that showed. I mean, it's not like he was sitting there chasing a guy all the way around. He was just, he was doing his movement, but not too much, not too little, just enough to, not waste too much energy. And, that's one of the points people don't mention when they're like, hey, how all of a sudden is he not gassing out and stuff? First of all, I ain't never seen him gas out. I have seen him, slow down, take a little bit of a round off or get against the ropes, something like that. But, right. That just goes to show you that he's a lot more calm fighter right now, and he doesn't use as much energy as he used to. He knows how to conserve his energy, and that comes with experience, and we can't say that he doesn't have any experience. He's been in there with every style of fighting, and, that's basically it on that one.
No, I definitely agree. Like, there's nothing that a fighter could bring to him that he hasn't seen some combination of. And like he said, used to fighting bigger, smaller, all these different styles. Like, he's seen it all. He's benefited from all these fights that he's had in the past. And that experience really counts for something. Like, a lot of people have never seen anything like Canelo. Callum Smith said in the lead up to this fight that, I studied him. I picked my little brother Liam Smith's brain. We've been studying. And they thought that they knew him. And, even though they did have the game plan, I'm sure there was stuff that he couldn't account for and things that he didn't have answers for. Canelo was taking away some of Smith's strengths, and it was just a systematic way of doing it. And there was probably some things that Canelo didn't need to do it was just an amazing showcase fight, in my opinion, and a lot of people are starting to talk about how there doesn't seem to be anybody who could take Canelo out in 2021. And that's the next thing I want to talk about. Canelo's getting a lot of credit for how good he is now. And people are saying, wow, he's a beast. And he is. That's the other thing too. Like, on top of all this great boxing, the guy's a beast. He's there whipping ass. And a lot of people are sitting there saying like, oh man, like, I'm not sure if anybody can beat him at 168. So Paul, I want to talk to you a little bit. Like, what do you think about Canelo in 2021? What are your thoughts on like who we should fight next? And what the calendar date should look like for him?
Well, we know the goal is to unify and be undisputed. I'm not sure if he can achieve that in in 2021, maybe by Cinco de Mayo 2022. But we're hearing rumblings about him having to take care of that Yildirim thing, and I was kind of hoping that the franchise thing would kick in and he wouldn't have to, even have to touch that fight. But nevertheless, I mean, it's a mandatory, so he's probably gonna have to knock that out. And again, he's squeezing in an extra fight that he doesn't really need. But that's just another thing that we gotta pay close attention to. The man already has 50 plus wins. His record he's fought a lot, and he's 30 years old, and he's we have fighters that at his age they barely got 20 wins. So you got to take into account how active Canelo has been in his career as well. So the hope is that he fights Billy Joe Saunders or Caleb Plant. But I think the Caleb Plant is going to be a little harder, because I did hear rumors that he was offered a 3-fight deal at $25 million apiece, but they wanted him to take a fight with Charlo at 166 catch weight, which is,
I saw you tweet that.
Yeah, which is out of this world to ask the A side like that to get a catch weight versus a guy who's already that size, 168. He's 160, but we all know that Canelo and him are around the same, height and weight and all that. So
Charlo's bigger, man.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but it's a total hoe move for them to try to get the boy at catch weight. You know what I mean? Considering the fans of Charlo are the same ones that are always, complaining about the 155 catch weight and all that. So, I don't know, man. Potentially, the PBC might make it hard to get that last IBF belt, and we don't know what's going to happen. But the hope is that he can get that belt, and maybe a 1-fight deal. He might have to take a little less just to go over there and get that belt. We see that PBC has had a hard time working with other companies. They take their sweet time when it comes to that. And another thing with we don't know what the zone's going to do, because if you notice if you've noticed, but Billy Joe's kind of coming back to reality. Dude is talking real now. He's saying that, why does Canelo have to do all the heavy lifting? And he's including himself in there. He's criticizing his own damn self. He's basically admitting that this whole time he's been delusional. And he's saying that he wants to go up to 168, and because he's highly ranked by the WBO, they're going to give him a shot versus Billy Joe Saunders. So potentially, we don't know what Eddie Hearn's going to do with that. He might do a quick little tournament that involves 3 boxers, and put Triple D in there, because that's a high money fight for these guys. So he might offer that fight to one of these guys versus Billy Joe Saunders, and the winner of that, gets Canelo. So, there's a lot of right now. There's a lot of variables to this situation, but for Canelo to be undisputed, so we got to just keep our close eye on that, and decipher the BS, because I got a feeling that PBC, is going to try something,
Great points. Shout out to G Funky Boxing. Our homie, our brother is in the house. Dude, thanks for coming by and kicking it with us, my man. Dude, great points, No Pollock. And that's something else I wanted to talk about too with or whatever the hell that guy's name is, Yildirim. I was reading an article today that says Mauricio Suleiman was stating that Canelo would like to fulfill his mandatory in Mexico in February. So not only do we get a bonus fight from Canelo within a month's time, we're going to get another fight from Canelo within 2 months' time. So I think this looks promising for Canelo to possibly go undisputed at 168 within 12 months' time. So he's already gotten 2 belts, and if he does fight Yildirim in February, he might be ready to go in May. And if he gets the mandatory out of the way, I don't think anybody can fault him for that. I mean, you talk about the face of boxing fighting 4 times in 12 months in 1 year. Usually these fighters only fight twice a year, and all of them haven't accomplished anything close to what Canelo's accomplished. So, I mean, we're getting bonus fights from this guy right now. He's utilizing his prime. So say he gets Yildirim out of the way, and then in May, because he likes his relationship with Eddie Hearn, and, they're rolling out the red carpet for him, as they should. I think there's a really good chance that we could get that Billy Joe Saunders fight in May. And I think that he would win. And I think you're right about PBC making it a bit difficult to get that last belt, especially because Canelo has already outlined his plans. So they know that he wants that belt. And I think that they're eager to do business with him, but they're also eager to secure Canelo. So we'll see how tricky things go. I mean, he is the hottest free agent, and people should want to work with him because with Canelo, they can actually make money. And we've seen how a lot of these people don't generate money. We're talking about like 100,000 pay-per-view buys with the Charlos. I mean, anybody around him doesn't sell. The draw is Canelo. There is no mega fight out there. Canelo would be the one to carry these pay-per-views on his back. And on top of that, too, if one of these PBC fighters is lucky enough to knock off Canelo, well, they're going to get a lot of that shine. So it's high stakes with Canelo with whatever he does. But I absolutely agree. I think that Canelo might have a little bit of trouble at the very end there. But do you see him having any difficulty with any of these opponents to go undisputed at 168?
No, I don't see any trouble. I think that I don't think Billy Joe Saunders is fast enough to pose any kind of threat. And if he wants to get in there and fight like a straight coward, that's on him. He's not gonna unless they want to rob Canelo. He's not gonna get no kind of decision on Canelo. And we already know he can't hurt him. So basically, I don't see him having any trouble with these guys. I don't think he'll have any kind of trouble with Caleb Plant either. I mean, that guy's not fast enough. He ain't nothing. He ain't got enough power to, and his hand, I hate to say this, but his hands aren't sweet enough to mess with Canelo, bro. In any ways, if anything, Canelo might end up taking his nickname away, Like,
dude, I feel that same way. I'm tired of hearing these people marvel over how good Sweet Hands Plant is. Like, oh man, he changes things up. I'm like, well, he's not really facing anybody at all. Like, anybody could show their versatility when they're fighting a bunch of tomato cans, and he's going to fight another tomato can. And we're supposed to be impressed with his versatility. Like, one, I think that he's very vulnerable. Like, I do like some of the things that Caleb Plant does. I think he has good speed. I like the way he jumps in with his hooks. I think his defense is, like I said, it's hard for us to know because he's never fought anybody even good, I would say. He hasn't been tested at the elite level. He hasn't had to answer to a guy who's skilled. He's never felt the power of anything closest to what Canelo's going to hit him with. That's the thing about Canelo. Like, he can slow down the pace simply because, when you hit him, you have to realize that there might be something coming back. I mean, the guy's naturally a counter puncher. So when he takes away, like, people go, oh, well, why didn't Callum Smith do this? Or why didn't this fighter do this? It's like, well, they could. And I'd have to say that I do think that Callum Smith did show a lot of heart. Like, he chose his spots and he tried to do what he could do, but Canelo is just shutting down these people. And a guy like Caleb Plant, like, I do think that a lot of people think he has a shot at beating Canelo. But to me, if we're talking about in terms of a resume, I don't think that win's going to count for much, bro. Like, if you look at it, like, he hasn't had any good wins, right? On top of that, say Canelo whips his ass, and then Caleb Plant goes and takes some consecutive losses, and we never hear from him again. Outside of YouTube hyping up Caleb Plant, like, that win historically is not going to count for much. He's just going to look like a guy with a belt back in the day. Like, he didn't do anything, so it would be nice if he built up his resume a little bit. I don't know if that's a win that could age well. The only win that I could see Canelo winning that might age well would either be a Billy Joe Saunders match or possibly a David Benavidez match if he gets back in contention, which is something that I think he would need to do. Like, I think he needs to get back in contention. He needs to take a solid fight. I think that it'll only take about one fight until we could say, yeah, maybe get in the ring with Canelo Alvarez. It doesn't take that much work, dude, but these people around are just waiting for paydays, taking soft touches all along the way. And Canelo's the only one taking care of any work at the division, man.
Yeah, and I wanted to go back a little bit with the 3-fight deal. I guess one of the deals was the first fight they wanted him to do, the PBC. Wanted him to do, it was a fight with Caleb Plant for the IBF belt. And then after that, they wanted him to fight Charlo at 166. And then they wanted him to fight David Benavidez, which they probably were going to set up a catch weight on that one too to benefit Benavidez, because he might not be able to make the 168 weight anymore, So, I mean, those are good fights, bro. I wouldn't call Caleb Plant a tomato can. It's just when you compare him to Canelo, I mean, that's where that's where the difference is. You know, he's not a by any means a tomato can. He's just you know, Canelo's just that much better, and that's where the thing is, you know. So it's not like he's fighting tomato cans. It's just a lot of these guys don't got nothing close to that experience, and you know, the only thing they got to offer is they have physical advantages over Canelo that you know that really don't matter at that level because you know with the skill just takes it to a different level.
For sure, man. I agree, dude. There's levels to this. Shout out to Jesus is Coming, bro. I saw you comment on my last video. Thanks for dropping by, bro. We're just hanging out talking about the great Canelo Alvarez. And yes, Jesus is coming, my friend. So thanks for hanging out with us. Yeah, dude, I totally agree. Like, there are levels to this. And Canelo, dude, he's just a beast. Like, I think he's about to clean up 168 in a year's time, dude. Like, and he's only 30, man. Like, and it seems to me like, you know, a lot of people have been talking about this idea that Canelo might be warm because he's been taking chingazos for over 50 fights. But dude, to me, like, he still looks fresh. What do you think about his longevity?
A lot of the times I don't know what to think, to be honest. Sometimes I agree with people, and he's not looking old by any means. It's just the fact that we saw him with the knee brace, and with that situation, we don't know what's up with that. We know he had a surgery, and but I don't know what to think of the situation because you know it's hard to say. I mean, it's hard to say. He looks good, but you know he has had a lot of fights, and you know he's been in some fights where they're just going at it, and we know he has killer defense, but you know he's still has taken some blows in certain fights, you know, and you know, but actually, if you just look at the situation like that, I mean, the way he's performing, now he's looking like, you know, we could stretch to, I would say somewhere around 33 to 35, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And then if he wants to go ahead and take those kind of fights where, you know, the ones that Floyd has taken, you know, those kind of circus fights, then that's up to him and not take any risks no more. But high level fighting, I'd say up to like probably 35. Yeah. I know I said 33 to 35, but probably 35 years old, you know, these high level, high risk fights.
Oh, yeah. Great points, man. Well, hey, dude, I want to move on a little bit, dude. I want to talk to you a little bit about what I've been seeing. You know, like I was talking about a little bit earlier, you know, we've started noticing that there's some channels out there that are giving Canelo credit these days. And it could be for a couple reasons. One, you know, it's because they're objective, you know, or they need to kind of maintain their reputation. So they need to give Canelo credit, or they might seem like a hater. So that's something I wanted to talk about because a lot of these people kind of go, well, hey, you know, I'm not a fanboy. You know, those guys over there, you know, these are the fanboys. So I want to ask, like, well, what is a Canelo fanboy? You know, like somebody who calls Canelo a pound for pound fighter and has the best resume in boxing is just speaking objectively. So I really don't know where people are coming from when they say, oh, you know, there are these fanboys out there. I mean, you know, one could make the argument that if anybody was high on a fighter ahead of time, they were right. Because Canelo has shown that he is the best fighter in the world, almost unquestionably right now. I mean, you could make the argument for Crawford as number one, and that's okay too. But if you sit there and say now, hey, Canelo's number one, he's got the best resume in boxing outside of Pacquiao, it's hard to disagree or put an argument with that, man. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this stigma of being a fanboy and how some people think that they're not fanboys. What are your overall thoughts on that?
My thoughts on that is kind of simple. It's true. I mean, we got to ask ourselves, what is a Canelo fanboy? I mean, years ago, I mean, if you take into consideration all the criticism that Canelo has gotten, I would say, I would estimate it at about 90% of it was wrong, and maybe about 10% was correct. You know what I mean? Maybe
Right.
10% of it was, you know, it's okay. But I would say about most of it was wrong. So if you were one of the ones that was clearing up the air and telling people that they were wrong back in the day, I wouldn't even say that was a fanboy. But nevertheless, that was what people were saying was a fanboy. You know, I remember the situations with clenbuterol. You know, it's already known that clenbuterol is all over in Mexico, everywhere you go. You know, there might be one state in the Mexican country that, you know, they deal with nothing but beef, and they don't inject it with they don't give it clenbuterol. You know what I mean? There's one state in all of Mexico that's known for having some clean beef, but the rest of the country is littered with it. So and he was the amount that was found on the system was very small, very small. It was smaller than other fighters had been caught with, or found, and they were it was diagnosed on them that it was for meat contamination, just like Canelo. And people were just saying, oh, he got caught twice, which is a total lie. It was just the same drug test, just it stays in your system for a certain amount of time. So so it's not that he got caught twice, it was that it was still in his system. So that, and not to mention that the amount he got caught with now is okay. They WADA changed their whole rules mainly because of this situation. They found out that it was unjust, the treatment that they gave Canelo, so they went ahead and changed the rules, because they don't want this type of situation to happen. Mind you, I said WADA, not VADA, or the commission in Las Vegas. I mean, they're going to go with whatever WADA said. So I mean, they technically weren't doing it just for Canelo, but but they want to make sure this type of shit never happens again, where a guy tests positive for micro amounts of clenbuterol, to say, out of all drugs, if you're going to be caught with some kind of good steroid, is it going to be clenbuterol? So a lot of these channels, they just use these messed up narratives, and even the ones that'll excuse with Tyson Fury, who was found with an actual steroid, they excuse him, but they're like, but it's Canelo who got caught twice, so a lot of these channels are just BS channels, man.
Oh yeah, that's why, as a fan, I tell people, like, dude, don't pay too much attention to it. Like, these are just people on YouTube. Like, honestly speaking, like you or myself, and anybody who might even be listening, like, you probably know more about boxing, even if you're just a casual. You probably know more about boxing than just about anybody around you. Like, and let's be honest, dude, the sport thrives on fans. Like, Canelo's the cash cow, so like, when I wear this merch, at first it was just to make a point. I'm always geared up. It's not because I'm like this super fan who's just over here like Canelo, 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 Canelo. Although, I think that if I did, it would be okay. But it's mainly just to make a point. Like, Canelo fans actually have money to spend on this kind of stuff. He's the cash cow. So, the Canelo fan base has discretionary income. So we choose to pay for a premium product, as you can see. So we pay the bills in this sport, baby. That's what I got to say about that. And I think,
brother, totally. And about the merch, man, it's like you can go to the mall or something and see a bunch of dudes wearing the Raiders jerseys and the 49er jerseys. And
right.
What does it mean? Does that mean they're fanboys of the whole squad? Like, they want? Does that actually mean like they want to suck everybody's thing? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Sorry, go ahead.
Most of us boxing fans, a lot of us, like me, I don't watch football anymore. I don't watch basketball, none of that stuff. So what am I going to go get a shirt designed that just says boxing on it? Nah, man. I'm going to buy the shirts from fighters that I support. You know what I'm saying? And nothing wrong with that. I mean, sure, we're going to try to get the ones that are a little less fanboyish, but
nah, me too.
Shirts out there, man. But none of us should be ashamed to, put on a shirt that represents boxing, man. And, we got to get our arguments right,
Yeah, dude, you're absolutely right. One of the things is, like I said, I just want to make sure that listeners out there know that, you don't really owe an explanation to anybody. And if you feel shamed, man, just tune out for a little while, then go about your day and just, go watch archived boxing. Just do your thing, man. We're all independent. We're all adults here. Like, people do choose to spend hours listening to this, but I mean, if you notice, like, a lot of the stuff never goes anywhere on YouTube. Like, you can make all the solid arguments in the world. The narratives are going to continue the next day anyways, So I say, embrace being a fan, man. In fact, I would say that enthusiasm towards boxing is not only sought after by all aspects of the industry in boxing, but actually required to survive. Like, we need enthusiasm in boxing. Like, I can't tell you how many times, I've heard people go like, oh, miss the fans in the crowd. Well, what are we talking about? We're talking about fans. We're talking about enthusiasm. We're like, oh, the crowds back in the day, they were better. Okay, well, you're talking about fandom. You're talking about enthusiasm. That's what drives the sport. Like they need people to spend money to get excited about particular boxers. We already have a way of shitting on our own sport in general, but to downplay people who actually make the world go round in boxing and pay the bills in boxing, I really don't know what to tell you. Like I said, I don't pay too much attention to it. And I just hope that the listeners out there realize that, you just can't put that much credence into what they have to say because they're not authorities on this. Nobody's an authority on anything here in YouTube. It's all just subjective opinions. You know what I mean? So that's the way I view things, and a lot of these people too, they do have people that they root for. Like, some people like to say, I'm all about, just the best man winning, may the best man win. It's like, nah, I mean, I've never seen anybody who I think doesn't actually root for specific boxers. And like you said, when you made that analogy towards sporting teams, I like to think of myself as a person who roots for Mexican boxing in general. Canelo is the torchbearer for Mexican boxing. He's been carrying Mexican boxing on his back for like the last 8-9 years, and he continues to bring glory to Mexican boxing. And, there's nothing wrong with rooting for Canelo if you're not Mexican. And, we're all one, dude, and so, I mean, I get that. But, I do think of Mexican boxing as more of like a soccer team, but I have a lot of fighters that I like that aren't Mexican. But I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with rooting for a boxer if they're your own. And there's no such thing as like a Mexican race. But I mean, if you're like a black boxing fan and you happen to root for the Black American, like I think that's one of the most natural things in the world. Just like how if I root for the Mexican, that's the most natural thing in the world. Like we're kind of falling on our lines. I've heard a narrative out there that, people just want to root for their guy, and if it's a Mexican and a black guy fighting, well, the Mexicans want to see that black guy's ass get beaten. It's like I've never ever thought like that, and I saw people discrediting that theory, and I have to agree, it's not like that with me. Like when I have mega fight parties, we're not sitting here ready to see the black man get beat up on. Like, to me, if there's a Canelo fight where he's facing a black guy, usually it's because the black guy has earned his shot and he's one of the best. So that's what makes the fight hot. It's not like this racial war where I'm hoping that Canelo wins, for the Mexican people. I mean, I hope he does win for Mexico, but it's not about like race, in my opinion. It's just about Mexican boxing in general. Just like how if a black guy roots for a black guy, that's totally fine. Like I've never thought of it as like wanting to see the black guy get beat up on. And so that's one of the things that I had to say. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, totally. What people have to understand about Mexicans is if you go to Mexico, you'll see we got them in every color. So
right.
As far as racism and all that, yes, in our society over there and all that, it might have been instilled a little bit. But as far as general people are concerned, we have every color over there. So we don't look at boxing like, we don't look at things like, when we're watching the Mexican fighting the black fighter or the white fighter, we don't look at it like that. Hey, we're gonna
Nopal.
We don't look at it like the regular average person, where and there's a lot of boxing fans like that look at it like that. They look at it like they're superior, so they're gonna pull off the win. We Mexican fans don't look at shit like that. We root for our fighters, but we're not looking at it like we're better than anybody. No, we never look at it like that. We just, if our fighter happens to win, it's because he had a little more skill and a little more heart. And it's as simple as that.
Sure, man. And I like the exciting fights, man. It doesn't matter like what race the other guy is. Like when you get those like butterflies in your stomach and that anxiety about an upcoming fight because your dude's going up against somebody who's really good and that sound of the bell hits, like that's exciting, man. Like, when's the last time you felt like the butterflies in your stomach about Canelo like fighting somebody and the bell ringing?
I think it was the last time was the last. Well, actually, I've felt the butterflies with the Smith fight recently.
Yeah, you were a little bit more nervous about that than me.
I was a little nervous on that one, and the Kovalev fight too. So, yeah, I mean, but the probably the one that made me the where I had the most butterflies was probably the first Triple G fight.
For sure.
That was probably it, man.
Dude, I remember being so nervous for that fight, bro.
Yeah, and the betting lines were crazy too, huh? Like,
do you remember the line, dude?
The favorite, bro. That was crazy, huh?
Shit, man, I don't remember the odds, but that wouldn't surprise me, man. Like I remember that fight, like even the casuals knew who Triple G was. Like I hadn't seen that many people ever at my place for a fight in fucking a long time, man. And that's why I also think that even though hardcores like us might not care for that fight because we think Triple G's washed up. Like, I can't tell you how sellable that fight is. Like, casuals actually know who Triple G is. And, dude, those last 2 fights, phenomenal, dude. You know what I mean? So if they said, oh, hey, look at Triple G here, he still only has 1 loss to Canelo. A lot of people think Triple G won that fight. I mean, you could definitely sell that fight to everybody. And, the platform thing actually might help hide what Triple G's been doing, which is maybe not looking the greatest. I mean, they could actually totally sell this fight and make some serious money off it. And I kind of get it from a business perspective. And if you think about it, Triple G still has one of the best resumes as far as potential opponents for Canelo. Like, he actually fought Canelo twice, fought him to a very disputed draw, and he also lost to Canelo, which a lot of people are also disputing. He has a win over Jacobs. He has a win on paper over Deverenchenko. I thought that fight was a lot closer than people think, but that's just my opinion. So, like, to me, I think that you could make an argument to the casuals to sell that fight. And, like, to us hardcore fans, like, we might get upset. But, dude, like, we haven't seen a really good trilogy in a long time, man. Like, I actually love watching, like, the Marquez-Pacquiao fights, the Barrera-Morales fights. Like, I love seeing, rematches and rubber matches. I think that can be good for the sport when the first few fights or first couple fights warrant it, man. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I totally agree with that. And I was, I'm keeping some optimism there because Triple G did show some new skills, a new set of skills. He moved his head pretty good. I know that he fought another tomato can, but nevertheless, I mean, he could have probably knocked that dude out in the first or second round had he wanted to. And that was one of the things I was asking from him, is for him to go in there and, if Jonathan Banks is trying to work new things with him, well, tell him, hey, man, you need some rounds in here so you could practice your skills, move your head around and, and bob and weave a little bit, you know what I mean? And I kind of saw that. And I think the round might have ended in like the 8th round or something where they stopped the fight. They, the corner said no more. But I'm holding some optimism there because I kind of think that Triple G can still beat up guys like Charlo. You know what I mean? I got a feeling that he could still whoop on them dudes. So I'm holding some optimism because I'm thinking, Eddie Hearn did look at Triple G at the end and he said, hey, he's willing to take some good fights, and he mentioned some names out there. And you never know, like I said, what the WBO is going to do with Billy Joe Saunders, considering that he won that on another vacant opportunity. His belt really doesn't mean much. You know what I mean? So potentially the WBO could be saying, hey, your mandatory is either Triple G or say, hey, you got to fight Andrade. If Andrade chooses to move up, that could happen, So, and Eddie can, when I say Eddie, I do mean Eddie Hearn. I don't know if at the beginning when I said that Eddie did, a tremendous job for Canelo. I think that you probably thought I meant Eddie Reynoso, maybe. I hope you weren't confused.
No, I know what you meant, man.
Eddie Hearn could potentially make that happen, He's got the power to do it. So we just got to see. And like I said, I'm hoping that they make these dudes the best out of those gets the belt and gets to fight Canelo, because, or, I mean, Canelo can fight them all. I guess he has time to fight them all, but, want to see these guys do a little to earn their shot,
Right, that's the thing. Like, Canelo can't fight everybody at once, but I think that he could fight every single name that we've mentioned within 2 years, dude. Like, we could see all these fights being cleaned up within 2 years, and that's pretty impressive. Like, once the list will be done, he'll only be 32, or actually he's 30 now, so he could be 30, later towards like around, towards the end of being 31. I think that's pretty impressive, man. Hey, another fight that I wanted to possibly bring up that I'm kind of talking myself into that might be feasible, is a fight with Andre Ward. I know that might sound a little weird, but dude, I've been thinking about it, and I mean, shit, dude, the guy's undefeated, he's rested. He's only 36, dude, and historically, around those weight classes, we've seen a lot of fighters with longevity around that time, from like 160 to 175. You can look at like Hopkins, Sergio Martinez, even Triple G, like there's a lot of fighters who can last into their mid 30s. And, I was thinking about it, it's like people say, oh, there is no mega fight, but part of me who thinks that, Andre Ward is a superb competitor. Man, I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if he's not taking a hard look at it to see if he wants to kind of jump in there. What do you think about that, man? Do you think it's feasible? And if it does happen, like who do you think would win that fight?
Damn, man, that's a good question. I definitely think Canelo would win that fight, but I don't think that that it's a possibility. It would be a great fight, but another thing is the weight, because the last time Andre Ward fought he fought at light heavyweight, and
Right.
he hasn't fought in over 3 years, 2 years. I'm not sure. He just been inducted into the Hall of Fame. So, and he was talking at one point about moving to heavyweight. So I don't know, man. I don't think he can make 168, and I don't think it's beneficial for Canelo to fight above 168, because look at how he's doing at 168, man. It's like the perfect weight. So the only edge I would give Andre Ward is he's really good at clinching, bro, and he's got some crazy moves, borderline, cheater type moves that, he knows how to stink up a fight, brother. And I hate to say this, but Canelo's never been in a fight like that where he has to worry about somebody cheating. The dude's known to not even clinch a guy 3 times in a fight,
Right.
So I don't think Canelo would be ready for those clinches, probably, man. Those crazy wrestling type of moves, that those signature moves that Andre Ward is so good at. And again, I gotta say the weight, man, is just very impossible. It's a fight that could have been made at one point, but I don't know, man.
Well, we'll see, man. Money talks, and like I said, it might be a little bit of a pipe dream, but you bring up a lot of good points, man. And that's the thing. Like, I do think that Andre Ward would be a worthy opponent in a lot of ways. He brings a style that we haven't seen Canelo have to deal with. And you're right, man. He's kind of a dirty fighter. He's rough. He likes to clinch, But one of the things that I've noticed about Canelo is, like, he's such a clean boxer, But I've seen times where he will be completely professional with you, but if you go there with him, like, he'll answer back a little bit. Like, I don't think he's scared to get dirty with you. He'll pay you the same amount of respect that you show him. I saw that a little bit in the Floyd Mayweather fight. I saw that a little bit, I think, in the first Triple G fight, just a little. But he'll go there with you quick, And so I'd be very curious to see, if Canelo could kind of, do some of that shit that maybe he was doing when he was like in Guadalajara. You know what I'm saying? Some old school shit.
Sounds like you want to see some new moves, huh, Chicano?
Exactly, man. Like, he's not scared to counter back. And I think that Andre Ward has a lot of good upper body strength. But I do think that, to make it dirty, Andre Ward would have to head towards him, but I think Canelo is a phenomenal counter puncher, and he's got great reflexes and good speed. And, Andre's big old head is going to get whacked a few times, if he tries to come on the inside. You know what I mean? So, like, it's more of a fantasy fight almost. But I mean, like I said, and like you said, maybe the weight's a little too far apart, but I'm not sure if he's been maintaining. And I'm sure he's doing his own thinking actively. But to me, I think that's the only mega fight that could possibly be made right now. Like I said, the casuals will buy into the Canelo Triple G fight. And that fight, even on pay-per-view, even though you could watch it on the zone, would sell very well to the casuals, man. It has a nostalgic feel to it, dude. So we'll see what happens, man. But, I think that there is nobody that could be a strong B-side to Canelo, except for possibly Errol Spence down the line, man. And I've seen a lot of people shit on that idea of a fight. And, Errol Spence is kind of calling out Canelo. Like, he's not really clear on when he wants to do it or what his own time frame is like. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I wanted to kind of go back on that point when you mentioned mega fights. The whole problem with that is we saw how they were doing it with Triple G. They were letting the guy fight, 3-4 times a year? And the fans were loving it. The dude was knocking out tomato cans left and right. But nevertheless, they built him up so good as a B-side for Canelo. And it's going to be hard to even build up even Errol Spence or anybody like that. The fans want to see it, but, realistically, will it be a mega fight? I don't know, man. I just hate the situation, man. I guess that they want him to come down to 160 to fight these guys. And, it would be a good fight, but I don't know, man. I look at these guys and they look about the same size. Why can't they just go to 168? Why can't they make their own legacy and go after the goal, realistically and honorably, like it's been done, for years,
Oh yeah, no, dude, you're right, man. There's a lot of things to consider, and we'll see how it plays out, because the one thing that we all know is that Canelo is the ultimate A side. So as far as what we were discussing before, man, tell me, like, what do you think about a potential Spence fight?
Uh, I think it's an easy fight for Canelo. Just really, I think he washes him if he wants to within 4 rounds. But I think it's still going to be a good fight, good build up. Both sides have a lot of fans. Spence is probably the one of two fighters at 147 that has a big fan base. But I think that Canelo washes him in like 4 rounds.
Yeah, dude, I have to agree. Like, part of me doesn't want to limit Errol Spence. Like, I think that fighters have a right to do what they want. Like a lot of people are saying that this is a bad fight for a lot of reasons because, well, look at Mikey Garcia and he moved up 2 weight classes and, you saw what happened there. And it's like, well, I don't think it's always that applicable. Like, a lot of people are also comparing like the Marquez Floyd fight. And it's like, okay, well, if you think about it, dude, they both started at 147. Like almost all fighters right now that we're talking about, all of them have moved up at least 1 weight class, dude. Yeah, and a lot of them are moving into their second weight class. Like, and Errol Spence started at 147 and he's taller. Like, to me, I don't think it's unfeasible to think that he could possibly do good work at 147, jump up to 154 and then fill out at 160. Like, if other fighters can jump up, 2 to 3 weight classes, and the people who do things like that, usually they're considered to be greats. I mean, that's impressive. When you see somebody go up to different weight classes and continue to dominate, it's impressive, So, and then I don't know if we're going to see the Errol Spence Bud Crawford fight. I don't think that we will anytime soon, but if Errol Spence is calling for it, I think it would be an interesting buildup. But I still think that even if Errol Spence, like I said, he has the right to go for it. And Canelo was asked about it. He said, "Sure, I'll fight him at 160, like if it comes to it." But it's not like he's chasing the fight. But say the money was right, and Errol Spence wants to challenge himself, I think he has a right to, if he makes the right steps ahead of time. But I think ultimately, I do think that Canelo would spark him out. I don't know, man. I was watching that Danny Garcia fight, and I could be wrong, but I thought that Errol Spence had a bit of a better jab. Like, he used to have a nice stiff jab, something that he could pump. And I felt like with Danny Garcia, it was kind of like a slanky jab. I don't know if you know what I'm getting at, man. But to me, it seemed a little bit different. And people are saying that he looks better than ever. But I don't know, man. He seemed kind of stationary to me. I think he definitely dominated, and I'm not sure if he just didn't go even further with things because, he had the fight in the bag, but I think that he did lose some rounds. He was also fighting a guy who didn't have enough grit to get in there and to really go for it. And I wonder how things would be now if he did. Like, for instance, with Sean Porter, they really went for it with each other. So, what are your thoughts on that, man? I mean, what are your thoughts on Errol Spence currently?
Well, it was kind of a weird fight, wasn't it? That with Danny Garcia, because it almost seemed to me like when they kept the fight in the middle of the ring, Danny Garcia was actually connecting and even winning, But it was almost when he was pushing him to the edge, to the ropes. That's when Errol Spence was looking good. But it was kind of a weird fight, and I actually, man, it's what is it now? Three or 4 fights where Errol Spence can't get the knockout at 147. So it's I don't know, man. Either he's having trouble making this weight or he just doesn't have the power. And he should be growing into his man strength. He's already older than Canelo. So, he's done growing and he should be knocking fools out right now at a lower weight class. But it could be a similar situation with like Canelo not knocking everybody out at 154, but with Canelo, he hadn't achieved his man strength yet. So, every time I watch Errol Spence now, I got a question mark, man. I'm just not sure where he's headed, what he can achieve. Like I said, he's already at that age where he should be doing a little more. It's starting to worry me that he wants Canelo and he's not trying to take care of business at 147 first. He's, thinking about going up there to get the Canelo fight, and at the same time, he's mentioned that if he doesn't get the Terrence Crawford fight, he doesn't even care. He's here for a short time. That's another thing he said, and that he's going to do what he has to do while he's here. So, he's starting to look like he's not a real legacy fighter, man. And you know how I feel about that. About fighters that just waste our time. Like, I'm not going to say no names, man, but Yeah,
man. No, I'll tell you that, dude. Like, there's a lot of fighters like that now, dude. And I have to agree, man. Like, I kind of question although I know that he has grit. That's something that I've seen in him. But it's almost like he also doesn't care either, man. Like, here's our G Funky's in the house. He says, Canelo versus Spence is only a money fight, not a 50-50 fight. I mean, that's for sure, man. I think, even Spence's fans, who should support him, are kind of sitting there going like, whoa, slow down, Spence. Like, let's not go there quite yet. You have some work that you need to do around 147, and they don't like that fight for him. But like I said, I don't necessarily want to limit him. Another thing that I noticed, bro, was when I was watching that Danny Garcia fight, like, and I noticed this a bit in the Mikey Garcia Spence fight too, although it was more like Mikey Garcia not taking advantage, was that, I noticed there were times where, Danny Garcia would get Spence out of position or vice versa, and they wouldn't take the shot on each other. They wouldn't take the shot on each other because they didn't want to get countered. And it's something that with Canelo, man, you get in real trouble, because if Canelo has you out of position, you will absolutely take the shot, and he's not really too scared about what comes back because he's got such excellent defense. And I think that would naturally slow down the fight. A lot of these fighters are scared to take shots when they have the other fighter out of position because they don't want to get answered back. And I mean, if you're talking about a counterpuncher, I mean, say you get Canelo out of position and you do hit him, well, you might have to expose yourself, and he might come with something over the top, dude, and Canelo could lay you out, man. I think that the power is absolutely carried. I think that some people are saying that, well, Canelo's power hasn't carried to 168. Like, I mean, to me, I thought Callum Smith got beat up. You know what I'm saying? So, do you have any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. He got his ass whooped, bro. He was getting hit from every angle, and even his arms were at danger to a point where he couldn't even move them in the end. So he was getting hit from all over the place, from angles, from the bottom, from the top, from the side top, from the other side top, from the bottom top. I mean, from every single angle, you're thinking about the dude left with the broken nose. And fair play to the UK fans. I was gonna do a video on my channel about that, and the UK fans are, they're proven to be very good fans, brother, and they got some champions over there, and they weren't able to do it this time, but the way they carry the sport, you gotta tip your hat to them, man. They're really good fans, and they're not sore losers like a lot of other fans.
Dude, I gotta agree, man. Like, that's one of the things that I almost made a video about too. Like, I'm impressed with the English fan base. I think they're great people. They're enthusiastic about the sport, and they don't have any shame about having enthusiasm. But they also keep it real. Like, a lot of them, well, like I said, I think absolutely everybody picked Canelo to win, although there were people on the other side of the pond, and yourself, Nopal, who thought, well, it's going to be a close fight. I didn't necessarily see it as a close fight, but they did think that, Callum Smith did have a chance, or some type of chance. And then, afterwards, they gave Canelo his credit. They're a fan base that gives fighters their proper due, as well as the announcers, man. Like, I hear the announcer teams talk about Canelo, and just they're not scared to put praise on people, and instead here, man, we have people like Brian Kenny trying to take away the credit from Canelo as soon as he wins, going like, oh, well, he's not a 4-division champion. Hey, did you hear that bullshit, man? That's fucking shit pissed me off. Did you catch that?
Yeah, I've been hearing
that. What the hell was that about?
Yeah, I mean, I've been hearing shit like that for the longest from the same people that praise Triple G for 21 defenses, when we all know that the first 11 or so were with the regular title that he got on a vacant opportunity. So, I kind of just roll my eyes on that type of shit. But Brian Kenny is the dude that works for PBC as well, huh?
Yeah, I've seen him work for PBC. Yeah.
Spiky hair guy, huh? Yeah, that guy was talking a lot of BS. And I was telling my girl, I was like, man, you hear what he's saying? That he's tripping, man. He was saying, I can't specifically say what else he was saying right now, but I know he was in there talking some crap, man.
Yeah, dude, those guys argue, man. And I'll tell you this, dude, like last night, after you watched Oscar De La Hoya versus Shane Mosley, the first fight. Oh, man, dude, I'll tell you this, dude. It was so nice hearing that old school commentary, with Jim Lampley, Larry Merchant, and Big George. Just, it was like refreshing to hear those guys. Like, I know a lot of people had problems with them, but now, dude, I would pay money to get like a classic lineup, or even just like Jim Lampley, Roy Jones, and Kellerman. Like, I would easily take that commentary team, like, because they don't squabble. They pay enough amount of respect while keeping it real. Like, I think that they do absolutely what they need to. Their flow is better. Man, that whole production at DAZN, man, it needs a lot of work. Salute to Mexican boxing community. That's El Dude, right, Nopal?
Yeah, and I wanted to thanks for reading that, brother. I wanted to extend a welcome to El Dude. Hey brother, if you ever want to do a collab with us, or with me or Chicano or even G Funky or even D Style, man, you got an open invitation to come through anytime you want, brother. You know, we've been looking at your videos for a while. Me and you got some history together, and you know, I just wanted to let you know, bro.
Yeah, dude, I agree. Dude, I've heard you go on, man, at night, and you're cooking, man. And I like the way you talk about Mexican boxing and have pride in it. It's good to hear, man, because for some reason people think that there's some kind of shame to be had about rooting for Mexican boxing when you're a Mexican. And like I said, it's the most natural thing in the world, and it doesn't make us racist at all. We love all boxing, and we're not here to see, other races get beat on. We're just here to talk about the glory of Mexican boxing, man. And like I said, you can be a fan of all fighters out there, man. So we like to be inclusive here. Everybody's welcome to like Canelo because he is, after all, the greatest fighter of his generation, the pound for pound #1, and the guy who has the best active resume in boxing.
Yeah, and I also wanted to add that, as Latinos or even if you want to be more specific, because, a lot of us are Mexican, but as Latinos, we are a minority on YouTube boxing when it comes to defending our fighters. And a lot of our fighters, man, they get a lot of criticism that's not even warranted. So, there's no shame in, helping each other out with a couple videos to, support our fighters, because we do get a lot of criticism.
Oh, yeah. Shout out to Run PMC, says Brian Kennedy has been full bit for 15 years plus. Yeah, man, I got to agree. Although, you know what? I still love that classic ESPN interview he had with Floyd Mayweather, man. Fucking love that exchange they were having with each other. Do you remember that?
I think so. He was talking some crap and Floyd got all mad, huh?
Yeah, because he was asking, like, well, why don't you fight Pacquiao? It was just when Floyd Mayweather was coming back from his retirement and facing Marquez. And, he was kind of asking him, like, why he wasn't facing Pacquiao. But I'll tell you this, man, that interview has aged well for Floyd. Like, I understand a lot of his answers more now, especially because he did answer all the questions when he's like, well, why don't you fight Mosley? Why don't you fight this guy? It's like, and he did answer all those questions. So I encourage people to go back and look at that one. It's a fun one. And it says here, Foreman was the best on that mic. Yeah, for sure, man. He was a total Oscar fan too. He'd be like, oh, but that, da, 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 da. Like, man, he was just a great fan while actively calling things and, seeing things. All right, Nopal, we're about to wrap up here. Let me just read a couple more comments here, and then we'll get out of here with some final thoughts. Dude says Canelo can move up 1 to 3 divisions up and down, but Spence, who comes in at 160 come fight night, is not 50-50 according to the haters. It's pound for pound, bro. Well, that's my point too, Dude. We were kind of mentioning that earlier. Like, all Spence has to do is move up 2 weight classes. A lot of these fighters have moved up a shit ton of weight classes. And so to me, like, I think he absolutely has that right to try. I think that a shift is coming to where he's going to naturally he's going to move up anyways, regardless. So if he goes up to 154, 160 is not that far. I think that he has the right to go for it. And then looks like, yeah, cool, man. So it looks like we're about to wrap up. Nopal, do you have any other comments?
Oh, not really, man. I think we said most of the stuff we needed to say. And, I think I enjoyed this one, man. It was really good.
Yeah, dude, it was a good time talking about this. And, I thought about producing another video with my little skit format that I have, but I was thinking, man, I just got a lot of fucking things I want to say. And it's hard to kind of make it funny and also just kind of elaborate my thoughts on it. And I wanted to get it out there quick, because, a lot of the narrative's already out there. And I just wanted to celebrate and just encourage people to go out there and realize that, you can have whatever opinion you want. You can go out there and be a fan because the sport needs enthusiastic fans. That's how it survives. So everybody needs to keep on doing their thing. D-Style's in the house. What's up, D-Style? All right, man, we're going to wrap up, and Nopal and I will be back just to kind of talk and speak our minds, with maybe our 1 to 2 listeners at a time. Hope you guys all have a great holiday season, man. If you don't hear from us, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everybody.
And salute to the HCP Clica.
Absolutely, HCP, man. All right. And Nopal, what do we say?
Keep it boxing.
Keep it boxing. I'll see y'all later. Peace.